The cargo bay smelled like burned metal and old grease. Day one wiped the sweat from his face and checked his data pad one last time. His shift was finally over. 12 hours of loading supply crates onto transport ships had left his muscles aching and his back sore. He grabbed his jacket from the hook and started walking toward the exit. The spaceport was quiet at this hour. Most workers had already gone home. The massive ships sat silent in their docking bays, their engines cooling down for the night. Day one liked this time of day. It was peaceful. No supervisors yelling orders, no alarms blaring, just him and the hum of the station's life support systems. He was halfway to the transit platform when he heard it. A small sound, almost like a bird chirping, but there were no birds on this station. Day one stopped walking and listened. There it was again, a high-pitched cry coming from somewhere near the waste disposal sector. He should keep walking. The disposal sector was restricted. If security caught him there, he would lose his job. Maybe worse. But the sound came again, and this time it sounded scared, hurt. Day one looked around. No one was watching. He turned and walked toward the sound. The disposal sector was dark. Emergency lights cast long shadows across the floor. Day one pulled out his pocket light and moved carefully between the massive garbage compactors. The chirping got louder. He followed it to the back corner where the industrial machinery sat. Then he saw it. A small creature was trapped between two metal gears. Its body was covered in golden scales that shimmered even in the dim light. One wing was bent at a wrong angle, caught in the machinery. The creature looked up at Day one with bright yellow eyes and cried out again. Day one's heart stopped. He knew what this was. Everyone in the Empire knew. The golden scales. The small horns just starting to grow. The wing structure. This was a dragon hatchling. Not just any dragon. Those golden scales meant royalty. He should run. He should call the authorities right now. Touching a royal dragon could mean execution. But the little creature was shaking. Blood dripped from its injured wing. It was scared and in pain. Day one made his decision. He took off his jacket and approached slowly. The hatchling hissed at him, trying to look threatening. A small puff of smoke came from its nostrils. Day one spoke softly. "It's okay, little one. I'm going to help you." The hatchling watched him with suspicious eyes. Day one knelt down and examined the situation. The wing was caught tight. He would need to manually reverse the gears to free it. He found the manual release lever and started turning it slowly. The machinery groaned. The hatchling cried out as the gears moved. Day one worked as gently as he could. His grandmother had taught him how to handle injured birds back on Earth. The principle was the same. Move slowly, stay calm. Let the creature know you mean no harm. Finally, the wing came free. The hatchling tumbled forward, and Day one caught it in his jacket. It was heavier than it looked. The creature struggled for a moment, then went still. It looked up at him with those bright yellow eyes. Day one carefully wrapped the jacket around the small body, supporting the injured wing. The hatchling was warm, very warm. He could feel its rapid heartbeat through the fabric. Up close, he could see it was just a baby. Scared and hurt and far from home. "Where's your mother, little one?" Day one whispered. He started to stand, cradling the hatchling carefully. He needed to find a way to contact the palace without getting himself arrested. Maybe if he just left the hatchling somewhere safe and called anonymously. The lights came on. All of them, at once. Day one froze. The entire disposal sector was suddenly bright as day. He heard the sound of boots hitting metal. Lots of boots. Soldiers poured into the sector from every entrance. They wore the black armor of the Imperial Guard. Their weapons were drawn and pointed at him. A voice boomed over the loudspeakers. "Do not move. Put down the prince immediately, Prince." Day one's stomach dropped. This wasn't just any royal hatchling. This was the Empress's son, the only heir to the throne. He looked down at the small creature in his arms. The hatchling had fallen asleep, its head resting against Day one's chest. It looked peaceful now. Safe. Day one slowly knelt down, still holding the hatchling. He didn't put it on the cold floor. He kept it wrapped in his jacket, keeping it warm. Around him, dozens of guards formed a circle, their weapons ready. Then the sky opened up. Day one had never seen a full-grown dragon before. Not in person. The creature that descended from above was massive, easily the size of a small ship. Its scales were deep crimson with streaks of gold. Its wings blocked out the lights as it landed. The force of the landing shook the ground beneath Daewon's knees. More dragons landed around the first, smaller but still huge compared to any human. They wore the formal robes of the imperial court. Daewon recognized the symbols. These were high nobles, advisors, military commanders. The massive crimson dragon began to change. Its body shimmered and shrank. In seconds, a woman stood where the dragon had been. She was tall and beautiful, with long black hair and eyes that glowed the same golden color as her son's. She wore robes of deep red silk that seemed to move like living fire. Empress Hayrin, ruler of the Vrexian Empire, controller of 1,000 worlds. She walked toward Daewon. Her face showed no emotion. The guards parted to let her through. The entire court followed behind her. Daewon could feel hundreds of eyes on him, dragon eyes, judging him, hating him. The Empress stopped a few feet away. She looked at Daewon, then at the bundle in his arms. Her son was still sleeping, making small, contented sounds. Nobody spoke. The silence stretched out. Daewon could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. He was going to die, he knew it. But at least the little prince was safe now. One of the dragons stepped forward, a male with dark green scales in his humanoid form. He wore military decorations. "Your Majesty, this human has committed the highest crime. He has touched royalty, kidnapped the prince. The law is clear. He must be executed immediately." Other voices joined in agreement. The court began to murmur. Daewon heard the word human said like a curse. He heard inferior species and primitive creature and probably planned to sell the prince. Through it all, the Empress stayed silent. She kept her eyes on Daewon. Then she spoke. Her voice was not loud, but everyone heard it clearly. "Why did you not leave him?" Daewon swallowed hard. His mouth was dry. He looked up at the Empress and told the truth. He was hurt. He was scared. "I couldn't just leave a child like that. It wouldn't be right." "You knew what he was," the Empress said. "It was not a question." "Yes, Your Majesty." "You knew touching him could mean your death." "Yes, Your Majesty." "Yet you freed him, wrapped him in your own clothing, held him." Daewon looked down at the sleeping hatchling. He needed help. "That's all that mattered." The Empress stepped closer. She reached out slowly and touched her son's head. The hatchling stirred but did not wake. She examined the injured wing. Daewon had torn strips from his shirt to bind it. Crude work, but it would hold until proper doctors could treat it. "You know medicine?" the Empress asked. "No, Your Majesty. My grandmother used to care for injured birds. I just did what I remembered." The Empress looked at him for a long moment. Daewon could not read her expression. Was she angry, sad, grateful? Finally, she straightened up and turned to face her court. When she spoke again, her voice carried power that made Daewon's bones vibrate. "This human will come to the palace, not as a prisoner, as my guest. I will pass judgment after I have learned more." The court exploded in shocked voices. The green-scaled general protested loudly. "Your Majesty, this is unprecedented. A human in the palace? He broke the law." "And I am the law," the Empress said coldly. "My word is final." She looked back at Daewon. "You will bring my son to the medical wing. You will not leave his side until I give you permission. Do you understand?" Daewon nodded, unable to speak. "Good." The Empress turned and walked away. The court followed, still arguing among themselves. 2 guards came forward. They did not point their weapons at Daewon. One of them gestured toward awaiting transport. "This way, human." Daewon stood on shaking legs, still cradling the prince. He had no idea what would happen next, but he had a feeling his life had just changed forever. The palace was beyond anything Daewon had ever imagined. The transport had flown for 20 minutes over towers and gardens that seemed to go on forever. When they finally landed, guards escorted him through hallways made of crystal and stone that glowed with inner light. The ceilings were so high that clouds formed near the tops, but Daewon barely noticed any of it. His attention was focused on the small prince in his arms. The hatchling had woken up during the flight and seemed confused. It made small, worried sounds. Daewon kept whispering to it, the same soothing words his grandmother had used. Somehow it seemed to help. The prince would calm down, then press closer to Daewon's chest. The guards brought him to a large room filled with medical equipment. Doctors waited there, all dragons in their humanoid forms. They wore white robes and looked at Daewon with cold, suspicious eyes. "Put the prince on the examination table," one doctor said. His name tag read Dr. Wanshik. Daewon carefully tried to set the hatchling down. The prince immediately cried out and clung to Daewon's shirt with its small claws. It did not want to let go. Dr. Wanshik frowned. This is unusual. The prince does not normally tolerate anyone outside the royal family. He's scared, Daewon said quietly. Can I stay close while you work? The doctors exchanged looks. Finally, Dr. Wanshik nodded.
Stand there.
Do not interfere. Daewon stood beside the table, keeping one hand on the prince's back. The hatchling allowed the doctors to examine its wing as long as Daewon stayed close. Dr. Wanshik worked carefully, setting the small bones and wrapping the wing properly. The injury is not severe, the doctor announced. He will heal completely in a few days. Your primitive first aid prevented further damage. He said the word primitive like an insult, but Daewon let it pass. A female dragon in elegant robes entered the room. She had silver hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. I am High Counselor Jiwoo, Chief Advisor to the Empress. The court has assembled. You are to be judged now. Daewon's stomach tightened. What about the prince? He will remain here with the doctors. When Daewon tried to step away, the prince cried out and tried to follow. Dr. Wanshik had to hold the hatchling back. The sound of its distressed cries followed Daewon all the way down the hall. The throne room was enormous. Hundreds of dragons filled the space, all in their humanoid forms. They stood in formal ranks, wearing robes of different colors that marked their status. At the far end, on a throne carved from a single piece of black stone, sat Empress Hayrin. Guards brought Daewon to the center of the room. A circle had been marked on the floor. He was told to stand inside it. The entire court surrounded him, staring down with hostile eyes. A large male dragon stepped forward. His green scales showed through his skin even in humanoid form. I am General Kyung-soo, commander of the Imperial Military. I speak for the court when I demand justice for this crime. What crime? A new voice called out. A human man pushed through the crowd. He was older, with gray hair and a tired face. He wore formal diplomatic robes. Ambassador Sung-ho representing the human colonies. This man has committed no crime. General Kyung-soo turned on him. He touched royalty. He took the prince. These actions carry a death sentence. He saved the prince's life, Ambassador Sung-ho shot back. He should be rewarded, not executed. He is human, the general said, as if that explained everything. An inferior species. Who knows what his true intentions were? Perhaps he planned to ransom the prince. Perhaps he works for enemies of the empire. That's ridiculous. Look at him. He's a cargo worker. He has no connections to anyone. The argument grew louder. More dragons joined in. The throne room filled with angry voices. Daewon stood in the center, feeling small and helpless. He noticed that most of the dragons seemed to agree with the general. Only a few younger ones looked uncertain. A sharp sound cut through the noise. Empress Hayrin had struck her throne with her staff. The crystal stone rang like a bell. Instant silence fell. The Empress stood. She walked down the steps from her throne and approached Daewon. Up close, he could see she was studying him carefully. Looking for something. Why did you not leave him? She asked again. Daewon had already answered this question, but he understood she wanted the court to hear. He took a breath and spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. I found him trapped in machinery. His wing was broken. He was bleeding and scared. I couldn't just walk away. It wouldn't matter if he was human or dragon or anything else. He was a child who needed help. You expected to die for this action, the Empress said. Yes. Yet you did it anyway. Yes, Your Majesty. Explain to me why. Explain it in a way I can understand. Daewon thought about his grandmother. About the small birds she had saved. About the stories she had told him of what it meant to be human. Where I come from, we have a belief. We take care of those who can't take care of themselves. Not because we have to. Not because we expect anything in return. We do it because it's right. Because if we don't help when we can, then what's the point of being strong at all? Murmurs ran through the court. General Kyung-soo laughed. Such weakness. In dragon culture, only the strong survive. The weak are left behind. It is natural law, is it? Daewon asked before he could stop himself. The entire court went silent. He had dared to question them. The Empress raised one hand. Let him speak. Daewon knew he should be quiet, but something made him continue. If you only value strength, what happens when you become weak? When you're sick or injured or old? Do you just accept that you should be left behind? Or do you hope that someone stronger will choose to help you? Impertinent human. General Kyung-soo moved forward, but the Empress stopped him with a look. Answer his question, General. Kyung-soo's face tightened. That is different. Dragons of worth are given care. Who decides worth? Daewon asked. Your prince was weak tonight. He was helpless. By your logic, he wasn't worth saving. The court erupted in outraged shouts. Several dragons moved toward Daewon. The guards raised their weapons, though Daewon wasn't sure if they were protecting him or preparing to execute him. Silence. The Empress's voice was not loud, but it carried absolute authority. Everyone froze. She looked at Daewon with an expression he could not read. You dare compare my son to the weak? No, Your Majesty. I'm saying everyone is weak sometimes. Everyone needs help sometimes. Strength isn't about being the biggest or the most powerful. It's about what you do with that power. It's about choosing to protect instead of dominate. High Counselor Jiwoo stepped forward. Your Majesty, perhaps a compromise. The human clearly meant no harm, but he still violated sacred law. We could imprison him temporarily while we investigate further. No. The Empress shook her head. I have made my decision. She turned to face her court. When she spoke, her words rang through the throne room. This human will remain in the palace as my honored guest. He will be given quarters in the royal wing. He will be treated with the same respect given to any visiting dignitary. Anyone who harms him or shows him disrespect will answer to me personally. The court exploded. Dragons shouted over each other. General Kyung-soo looked furious. Ambassador Sung-ho looked shocked but pleased. High Counselor Jiwoo's face showed nothing. Your Majesty, this is madness, the general shouted. No human has ever been honored this way. Then we start a new tradition, the Empress said coldly. Or do you question my authority, General? Kyung-soo stepped back, bowing his head. No, Your Majesty. Good. The Empress turned back to Daewon. You will stay here. You will answer my questions. You will help me understand these human concepts you speak of, and you will help care for my son while he recovers. He seems to have attached himself to you. As if summoned by her words, a commotion started at the back of the throne room. Dr. Wonshik rushed in, looking flustered. Behind him, a small golden shape flew awkwardly through the air. Prince Taeyang had escaped the medical wing. The hatchling's injured wing was bandaged, but he flew on one wing in determination alone. He spotted Daewon and made a happy chirping sound. The prince landed clumsily on Daewon's shoulder, nearly knocking him over. The entire court stared. The hatchling nuzzled against Daewon's face, making contented sounds. It had never shown such affection to anyone outside the royal family. Never in recorded dragon history. Dr. Wonshik bowed frantically. Your Majesty, I apologize. He broke through the containment field. We couldn't stop him. The Empress watched her son cuddle against the human. A small smile touched her lips. It was the first time Daewon had seen her smile. It seems my son has made his opinion clear, she said. The judgment is final. Court dismissed. As the dragons filed out, many still arguing, the Empress approached Daewon. She gently touched her son's head. The prince chirped at her but did not leave Daewon's shoulder. What is your name, human? Daewon, Your Majesty. Daewon. She said it carefully, getting the pronunciation right. You have given me much to think about. We will speak again soon. For now, rest. You have had a long day. She walked away, her robes trailing behind her. High Counselor Jiwoo remained, watching Daewon with calculating eyes. You have made powerful enemies today, she said quietly, but also perhaps one powerful friend. Be careful, human. The palace is more dangerous than any machinery. She left. The guards remained, but they no longer pointed their weapons at him. One of them, a female guard with kind eyes, gestured toward a doorway. This way. I'll show you to your quarters. I'm Jae-hee. I've been assigned as your personal guard. Daewon followed, the prince still perched on his shoulder. As they walked through crystal halls, he wondered what he had gotten himself into. Everything had changed, and somehow he knew it was only the beginning. Daewon's quarters were bigger than his entire apartment back at the spaceport. The ceiling was painted to look like a night sky, complete with stars that actually twinkled. A massive bed sat against one wall, soft enough that he sank into it when he tested it. Through tall windows, he could see gardens that stretched to the horizon. Jae-hee stood by the door, watching him with cautious eyes. She had not said much during the walk here. Now she crossed her arms and spoke in a flat tone. I will be outside your door at all times. You are not permitted to leave these quarters without escort. Do not attempt to contact anyone outside the palace. Do not touch anything you don't understand. Many items here can be dangerous to humans. I understand, Day One said. Do you? Jaehee's eyes narrowed. I don't know what game you're playing, human, but the Empress has made a mistake honoring you. You're a primitive from a weak species. You got lucky finding the prince. That's all. Before Day One could respond, Prince Taeyang hissed at Jaehee from his shoulder. The hatchling's eyes glowed brighter and a puff of smoke came from his nostrils. Jaehee's face went pale. She bowed quickly. My apologies, young prince. She looked at Day One with confusion, then left, closing the door behind her. Day One carefully lifted the prince from his shoulder. You didn't have to do that, little one. She's just doing her job. The hatchling chirped and nuzzled his hand. Its scales were warm and surprisingly soft. Day One noticed the bandage on its wing was coming loose. He found the medical supplies that had been left on a table and carefully rewrapped it. The prince sat still, watching him with trusting eyes. You should be with your mother, Day One said softly. Not with me. But when he tried to set the prince on the bed, the hatchling climbed right back up his arm. Day One sighed. Okay, I guess we're doing this. He lay down on the bed and the prince curled up on his chest, making happy sounds. Within minutes, they were both asleep. Day One woke to someone knocking on the door. Sunlight streamed through the windows. The prince was still sleeping, tiny snores coming from his nostrils. Come in, Day One called quietly. The door opened. A female dragon entered, younger than the Empress but with the same golden eyes. She wore casual robes and had her dark hair pulled back simply. She smiled when she saw the sleeping hatchling. I'm Princess Yuna, the Empress's sister, and you must be the famous human who has everyone talking. Day One started to get up, but she waved him back down. Don't wake my nephew. He's always been a terrible sleeper. If you got him to rest peacefully, you've already performed a miracle. She sat in a chair near the bed, studying Day One with open curiosity. I've never met a human before. You look different than I expected. More ordinary. Sorry to disappoint, Day One said. Yuna laughed. That wasn't an insult. It's refreshing. So many species try to make themselves look impressive to dragons. You're just yourself. She leaned forward. Tell me about Earth, about human families. I want to understand. For the next hour, Day One talked. He told her about his grandmother, about growing up on Earth, about human customs and beliefs. Yuna listened intently, asking questions that showed she was really trying to understand. So humans raise children who aren't their biological offspring? She asked. You call this adoption? Yes, family isn't just about blood. It's about who you choose to love and care for. Dragons don't think that way, Yuna said thoughtfully. Bloodline is everything. Purity of lineage determines status. She looked at her nephew. But watching Taeyang with you, he doesn't care about bloodlines. He just knows you made him feel safe. A knock interrupted them. Dr. Wanshik entered looking stern. Princess Yuna, I need to examine the prince. Yuna stood. I'll leave you to it. Day One, we'll talk again. I find you fascinating. Dr. Wanshik worked efficiently, checking the prince's wing and vital signs. The hatchling woke up but stayed calm as long as Day One kept a hand on his back. The healing is progressing well, the doctor said grudgingly. You've been keeping him calm. That helps. He's a good kid, Day One said. Wanshik paused, looking at him strangely. Kid? You realize he is royalty? The heir to the empire? He's also a scared child who got hurt. That matters more. The doctor packed his equipment slowly. The Empress has observed something unusual. The prince has imprinted on you. In dragon psychology, imprinting is rare. It happens when a hatchling identifies a protector during a moment of extreme stress. Usually it's the mother. Sometimes another family member. Never an outsider. And never ever a different species. What does that mean? It means he sees you as family now. As his guardian. Breaking that bond could cause psychological damage. Wanshik looked troubled. I don't understand it, but I cannot deny what I observe. You are good for him. After the doctor left, Day One tried to figure out what to do. The prince needed exercise but couldn't fly with his injured wing. Day One remembered a game his grandmother had taught him. He found some paper and started folding it into simple shapes. The prince watched with fascination as Day One created a paper bird. The hatchling chirped excitedly and tried to copy the movements with his small claws. It was clumsy, but he was trying. That's it, Day One encouraged. Fold here, then here. The door opened without warning. Empress Hayrin entered, still wearing her formal robes. Day One scrambled to stand and bow, but she gestured for him to sit. "Continue what you were doing," she commanded. Day One sat back down. The prince chirped happily at his mother and showed her his crumpled paper. The Empress took it carefully, examining it. "What is this?" "Origami, Your Majesty. It's a human art form. We fold paper into shapes. I was just teaching him a simple design." The Empress watched as Day One helped her son fold another bird. "You teach him?" "Like a parent would. Just keeping him entertained while he heals." "No." Hayrin sat down across from him. "You do more than that. You teach him patience, creativity. You show him that creation can be as valuable as destruction. These are not lessons he receives from dragon teachers." She was quiet for a moment, watching her son play. "Tell me, Day One, in human culture, what is the purpose of strength? To protect those who can't protect themselves. To build things that last. To make the world better for the next generation. And in dragon culture, strength exists to dominate, to conquer, to prove superiority." The Empress looked tired. "I have ruled for 300 years. I have expanded the empire across 1,000 worlds. I am considered one of the greatest empresses in dragon history. But I have never asked myself why. What is the purpose of all this power?" Day One didn't know what to say. The most powerful being in the galaxy was asking him philosophical questions. "Your son is the future," he finally said. "What kind of empire do you want him to inherit? One built on fear? Or one built on something better?" Before the Empress could answer, alarms started blaring. Jaehi burst through the door, her weapon drawn. "Your Majesty, there's been an incident. Someone tried to enter the humans' quarters. We stopped them, but..." She hesitated. "It was Duke Sangwoo's personal guard. He claims they were just conducting a security check, but they were armed with poison weapons." The Empress stood, her eyes blazing with fury. "They tried to assassinate him." "It appears so, Your Majesty." Hayrin turned to Day One. "You were right to question our ways. A culture that responds to change with murder is a culture in decay." She looked at Jaehi. "Double the guard on these quarters. No one enters without my personal authorization. No one." "Yes, Your Majesty." After the Empress left, Jaehi remained by the door. Her attitude had changed. She no longer looked at Day One with contempt. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "I judged you without knowing you. That was wrong. You were doing your job." "No, I was being a typical dragon, assuming my species was superior." She smiled slightly. "Watching you with the prince. You treat him like any other child. Not like royalty. Not like a possession. You just care about him. We don't do that. Maybe we should." Over the next few days, a routine developed. Day One would wake up with the prince curled beside him. They would have breakfast together. He would teach the hatchling games and stories while the wing healed. Dr. Wanshik would check in daily, each time looking less skeptical and more thoughtful. Princess Yuna visited often, bringing questions about human culture. She was especially interested in human art and music. Day One taught her simple songs, and she shared dragon histories in return. More dragons started visiting. Younger ones mostly, officers and scholars who had heard about the human who treated the prince as an equal. They would sit and talk with Day One, asking questions their culture had never encouraged them to ask. One such visitor was Captain Bora, a young military officer with bright green scales. She came in uniform but left her weapons outside. "I've been thinking about what you said in the throne room," she told Day One. "About strength being used to protect. I became a soldier because I wanted to serve the Empire. But all we do is conquer. We take worlds from other species and call it progress. Is that really strength? Or just bullying?" "What do you think?" Day One asked. Bora watched the prince playing with paper shapes. "I think real strength would be building alliances. Learning from other species instead of dominating them. But if I say that out loud, I'd be called a traitor. Maybe it's time someone said it anyway." Bora smiled. "Maybe you already did." Jaehi, who had been listening from her post by the door, spoke up. "There are others who think the same way. Younger dragons who question the old traditions. We just never had anyone brave enough to speak first." "I'm not brave," Day One said. "I just did what felt right." "That's what bravery is," Jaehi replied. That night, after the prince had fallen asleep, Day One stood by the window looking at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, his old life. Part of him missed it. But another part knew he was exactly where he needed to be. The door opened quietly. Empress Hayrin entered alone. She stood beside him at the window. "My court wants me to exile you," she said. "They say you're dangerous, that you're corrupting traditional values." Daewon's heart sank. "Will you?" "No." She looked at him. "Because they're right. You are dangerous to our traditions. You're making us question everything we believed about strength and superiority, and I think that's exactly what we need." She turned to face him fully. "Tomorrow I will make an announcement. I am creating a new position, cultural guardian to the prince. It will be your responsibility to teach my son about other species, about different perspectives, about compassion. Your Majesty, I'm just a cargo worker. I'm not qualified to... You saved my son when you could have walked away. You spoke truth to power when you could have stayed silent. You treated a prince like a person instead of a symbol. You are more qualified than anyone in my empire." Her eyes were intense. "Will you accept?" Daewon looked at the sleeping prince, at this child who had somehow become so important to him. He thought about his grandmother and what she would say. "Yes, Your Majesty. I accept." The Empress smiled. "Good, because I think you're about to change the empire, and it will not be easy." The announcement sent shockwaves through the empire. A human given an official position in the royal household. A cargo worker granted authority over the prince's education. The news spread across 1,000 worlds within hours. Daewon woke the next morning to find his quarters surrounded by reporters and their hovering cameras. Jae-hee had to physically block the doorway to keep them out. "The human refuses comment," she said firmly, pushing back against a particularly pushy journalist. "The Empress will address all questions at the formal ceremony." "When is the ceremony?" Someone shouted. 3 days. "Now leave, before I have you all arrested." Inside, Daewon sat with Prince Taeyang trying to pretend everything was normal, but the prince could sense his nervousness. The hatchling kept nuzzling his hand, making worried sounds. "I'm okay, little one," Daewon whispered, but he wasn't sure if that was true. Princess Yuna arrived with an older dragon Daewon hadn't met before. The dragon was ancient, his scales gray with age, his eyes holding centuries of knowledge. "This is Elder Myung-soo," Yuna said, "keeper of imperial history. He has something important to show you." The elder bowed slightly. "I have been researching since your arrival, human. The Empress asked me to investigate our oldest records. What I found will interest you." He produced a data crystal and projected images into the air. They showed dragons living alongside other species, working together, building cities cooperatively. "This was our civilization 12,000 years ago," Myung-soo explained. "Before the Great War, before we became conquerors." Daewon stared at the images. "What happened?" "We were betrayed by species we considered friends. They feared our power and tried to destroy us. We barely survived. The war changed us. We decided never to trust again, never to be weak. We adopted the philosophy of strength above all else." "But that was 12,000 years ago," Yuna said. "Everyone from that time is dead. Yet we still hold on to the pain, still refuse to see value in cooperation." Elder Myung-soo nodded. "Trauma can poison a culture for millennia. We forgot that our strength once came from unity, not isolation. The Empress believes you can help us remember." "I'm just one person," Daewon said. "So was the Emperor, who declared we should trust no one," the elder replied. "One voice can change everything, for good or ill." The days before the ceremony were tense. Daewon could feel the palace dividing. Some dragons supported the Empress's decision. They were mostly younger ones like Captain Bora and her friends. But the older, more powerful nobles were furious. Duke Sang-woo was leading the opposition. He was an ancient dragon, older even than the Empress, with dark red scales and cold eyes. He commanded the loyalty of the traditionalist faction, nobles who believed in the old ways. On the second day, Duke Sang-woo requested a formal audience with Daewon. The Empress approved it, though she sent Jae-hee and 4 additional guards to supervise. The Duke arrived in his full formal robes, followed by a dozen attendants. He looked at Daewon with barely concealed disgust. "So you are the human causing all this trouble," Sang-woo said. "You are smaller than I expected. Weaker. More pathetic. Is there something you wanted to discuss, Duke?" Daewon asked calmly. "I wanted to see what kind of creature could bewitch our Empress, could manipulate her into making such a foolish decision." The Duke circled him like a predator. I have lived for 800 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched lesser species try to elevate themselves beyond their station. It never ends well. I'm not trying to elevate myself. I'm just taking care of a child. The prince is not a child. He is the future emperor, and you are corrupting him with your weak human ideas. Daewon felt anger rising but kept his voice steady. Caring about others isn't weakness. Teaching compassion isn't corruption. You would make him soft, vulnerable. You would destroy everything dragons have built. The Duke leaned close. I will not allow it. The ceremony will not happen. You will not poison the next generation. Is that a threat? It is a promise. You should leave this world while you still can. Return to whatever primitive rock you came from. If you stay, you will not survive. Jaehi stepped forward, her hand on her weapon. That's enough, Duke. I think you should leave now. Sang-woo smiled coldly. Of course. Give my regards to the Empress. Tell her that true dragons will not accept this insult to our heritage. After he left, Jaehi looked worried. That was basically a declaration of intent. He's going to try something. I know, Daewon said. But I can't back down now. Too many dragons are counting on this to change things. That night, Captain Bora came to his quarters in civilian clothes. She looked around carefully before speaking in a low voice. I've been hearing things. Sang-woo is organizing the traditionalist faction. They're planning to disrupt the ceremony. Maybe worse. What kind of worse? Daewon asked. I don't know exactly. But there are whispers about a formal challenge to the Empress's authority. If enough nobles support it, they could force her to abdicate or fight a duel for the throne. Daewon felt sick. This is my fault. I should leave before it gets worse. No. Bora grabbed his shoulders. Don't you understand what you've done? You've given us hope. All of us younger dragons who were tired of conquest and domination. We thought we had to accept things as they were. But you showed us another way is possible. I just helped a kid. You challenged 800 years of tradition. You made the most powerful being in the empire question her own beliefs. That's not nothing. Bora's eyes were intense. If you leave now, the traditionalists win. Everything goes back to the way it was. But if you stay, if we push through this, we might actually change things. Daewon thought about Prince Tae-yang, sleeping peacefully in the next room. About all the young dragons who had visited him, hungry for a different perspective. About the Empress's tired eyes when she talked about the purpose of strength. Okay, he said. I'll stay. But I need to know who I can trust. There are more of us than you think, Bora said. We've been organizing quietly. Not just military officers. Scholars, artists, engineers. Dragons who see the empire stagnating. We've been waiting for someone to give us a reason to speak up. Over the next day, Bora brought others to meet Daewon. They came in small groups, careful not to attract attention. Each had similar stories. They had questioned the traditional ways privately but never dared to speak publicly. A scholar named Hee-jin talked about how dragon science had stagnated. We conquer technology from other species instead of developing our own. We've stopped innovating because we think we're already superior. An artist named Taeho showed Daewon his work, paintings that mixed dragon and alien styles. I have to hide these. The Academy considers mixing cultures to be contamination, but I think it's evolution. By the evening before the ceremony, Daewon realized something important. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about an entire generation of dragons who wanted change, but needed someone to take the first step. Elder Myung-soo returned with more historical records. I found something else. During our cooperative age, we had a position called the Bridgekeeper, someone from another species who served as cultural advisor to the Emperor. The position was eliminated after the Great War. So there's precedent, Daewon said. More than that, I found records of how the Bridgekeepers helped prevent conflicts, how they brought fresh perspectives that led to golden ages of innovation and growth. The Elder's eyes were bright. The Empress isn't creating something new. She's restoring something we lost. That night, Daewon couldn't sleep. He stood at the window watching the palace grounds. Security had been increased. He could see guards patrolling everywhere. The door opened. Empress Heirin entered quietly. She stood beside him at the window. I have received formal objections from 47 noble houses, she said without preamble. Duke Sang-woo has submitted a petition demanding I rescind your appointment. 3 military commanders have threatened to resign. The court is in chaos. Maybe they're right, Daewon said quietly. Maybe I'm causing more harm than good. Do you believe that? Daewon thought about it honestly. No, I think change is hard. I think people who have power don't want to give it up. But I also think your empire is dying. Not from outside enemies. From inside. From being so afraid of weakness that you've become rigid, brittle. The Empress was quiet for a long moment. My son is happy for the first time in his life.
He laughs, he plays.
He creates things instead of destroying them. And he does this because of you. She turned to face him. Tomorrow, Duke Sangwoo will formally challenge my decision before the full court. It will be the greatest test of my reign. He will demand proof that you are worthy of this position, that humans have value beyond servitude. What kind of proof? I don't know. But whatever happens, I want you to know something. Her golden eyes were serious. You have already changed us. Whatever the court decides tomorrow, you have shown us that different is not the same as inferior. That strength can be gentle. That is worth more than any title. After she left, Daewon returned to bed. Prince Taeyang crawled onto his chest, seeking comfort in his sleep. The hatchling was growing stronger every day. His wing had almost healed completely. Tomorrow's going to be interesting, little one, Daewon whispered. The prince chirped softly in his sleep. Daewon closed his eyes, trying to rest. He had a feeling he would need all his strength for what was coming. In the shadows outside the palace, Duke Sangwoo met with his supporters. 800 years of tradition would not fall without a fight. The Duke had plans, contingencies, ways to make the Empress regret her foolish decision. The Empire stood at a crossroads, and by tomorrow everyone would have to choose a side. The age of isolation was ending. The question was what would replace it. The Grand Court assembled at dawn. Daewon had never seen so many dragons in one place. The throne room had been expanded using some kind of spatial technology. Thousands could fit inside now. Representatives from every major house. Military commanders, religious leaders, scholars, diplomats from subject species. They all came to witness what many considered the trial of the century. Daewon stood in the center circle again. But this time he wasn't alone. Jae-hee stood at his right side. Captain Bora at his left. Princess Yuna had taken a seat close to the front. Ambassador Sung-ho was there with a delegation of human diplomats. The traditionalist faction filled the right side of the room. The reformists, as they were calling themselves, filled the left. The middle was crowded with dragons who hadn't decided yet. Empress Hei-rin entered last. She wore her full ceremonial armor, scales gleaming. Prince Taeyang flew beside her, his wing fully healed now. The hatchling spotted Daewon and immediately tried to fly to him. "Stay, Taeyang," the Empress commanded gently. "This is important." The prince reluctantly perched on her throne's arm, but his eyes never left Daewon. Duke Sangwoo stood in the accuser's position. He was flanked by General Kyung-soo and dozens of other powerful nobles. When he spoke, his voice carried across the vast chamber. "Your Majesty, honored court, we gather today to address a crisis. Our Empress proposes to give a human, a member of an inferior species, authority over our future emperor's education. This violates every principle our civilization was built upon." The traditionalist faction roared approval. The Duke continued, "I have compiled evidence of human weakness. Their species has barely achieved spaceflight. They war among themselves constantly. Their average lifespan is pathetically short. Their physical strength is negligible. Their technology is primitive, holographic. Displays showed battles from human history, wars, crimes, failures. The Duke presented it all with clinical precision. These are the creatures we are told have wisdom to share. These are the beings who will guide our prince." Sangwoo turned to face Daewon directly. "I demand this human prove his worth. Prove that his species deserves anything more than servitude." Ambassador Sung-ho stood. "Your Grace, every species has a dark history. Dragons have conquered countless worlds. You've wiped out entire civilizations. If we judge by past actions alone, no one in this room is worthy of anything. We judge by strength," Sangwoo shot back. "By achievement, by natural superiority, and in all these measures dragons exceed humans in every way." The crowd erupted. Dragons shouted arguments across the room. The Empress let it continue for a minute, then struck her staff against the floor. Silence fell. "Duke Sangwoo has raised legitimate questions," Hei-rin said. "Daewon, you may speak in your defense." Daewon's mouth was dry. He looked at all the faces staring at him. Most were hostile, some curious, a few hopeful. "I can't defend all of humanity," he said clearly. "I can only speak for myself. The Duke is right. Humans are weak compared to dragons. We live short lives. We're not as strong or as smart, but we're still here. We survived, we grew, we reached the stars. Through theft and imitation, Sangwoo interrupted. You copied technology from superior species. Yes, Day One agreed. We learned from others. We adapted. We weren't too proud to admit we didn't know everything. Is that weakness? Or is it wisdom? Murmurs ran through the court. The Duke's face darkened. You want proof of human worth? Day One continued. I found Prince Taeyang hurt and scared. I could have left him. I could have reported it and walked away. But I didn't. Not because I wanted a reward. Not because I thought I could gain power. I helped because it was right. Sentiment, Sangwoo scoffed. Useless emotion, is it? Day One turned to address the whole court. Your empire is the most powerful in the galaxy. You've conquered 1,000 worlds. But what have you built? What have you created besides more weapons and more ships? When was the last time dragon culture produced great art? New philosophy? Scientific breakthroughs? Elder Myung-soo stood. He speaks truth. I have researched our history. Our greatest achievements came during the cooperative age. For the last 8,000 years we have stagnated. We take from others but create nothing new ourselves. Lies, General Kyung-soo shouted. We are the pinnacle of evolution. Then why are we here? A new voice called out. He-jin, the scholar, stood bravely. Why do we feel the need to constantly prove our superiority? Truly confident beings don't need to dominate others to feel strong. More reformists stood. They began speaking their own experiences. Captain Bora talked about soldiers who were tired of endless conquest. Taeho showed his mixed culture artwork. Others shared frustrations they had hidden for decades. The Duke grew angrier with each speaker. Finally, he raised his hand for silence. Enough of this circus. Your Majesty, I invoke ancient law. I challenge your decision. If you cannot provide concrete proof of this human's value, you must rescind his appointment. Furthermore, I call for a vote of no confidence in your leadership. The court went silent. This was serious. A vote of no confidence could force the Empress to fight for her throne. Empress Hyrin stood slowly. When she spoke, her voice was cold as space. You dare challenge me, Sangwoo? I challenge your judgment. You have been deceived by sentiment. You risk our entire civilization for one insignificant creature. Then let me tell you what I have learned from this insignificant creature. The Empress descended from her throne. I have ruled for 300 years. I have expanded our borders, increased our military might, made our empire feared across the galaxy, and I have been utterly alone. She walked to the center of the court. I have no true allies. No one speaks honestly to me because they fear my power. My own son was raised by servants who taught him to dominate, never to connect. I was becoming the same isolated tyrant my mother was, and her mother before her. The Empress stopped beside Day One. This human showed me something I had forgotten. Strength without compassion is just cruelty. Power without wisdom is just tyranny. I watched my son, who trusted no one, sleep peacefully in this human's arms. I watched him laugh for the first time, learn to create instead of destroy, and I asked myself, what kind of empire am I building? What kind of legacy will I leave? She turned to face Duke Sangwoo directly. You speak of superiority, of natural order, but I look at our empire and I see decay. Yes, we are strong, but we are also alone, feared but not respected, obeyed but not loved. We have no real friends in the galaxy. Only subjects and enemies. Hayren's eyes swept across the court. Humanity's strength is not physical. It is their ability to see value in others, to build communities across differences, to care for those who cannot care for themselves. These are skills we have forgotten, and we need them if our empire is to survive. Weakness, Sangwoo spat. No, the Empress said softly. Evolution. The universe is changing. New powers are rising. Species are forming alliances, and we stand alone, proud and isolated. How long before our enemies unite against us? How long before our strength becomes our prison? She placed a hand on Day One's shoulder. This human saved my son when any logical person would have walked away. He spoke truth to my court when he knew it could mean death. He has shown me that different perspectives are not threats. They are opportunities, and I will not waste this opportunity. The Empress's voice rose with power. I hereby establish the first human dragon academy, a place where both species will teach and learn, where we will study cooperation instead of domination, where my son will learn to be a ruler who builds rather than conquers. The reformist faction erupted in cheers. The traditionalists shouted in protest. The neutral dragons looked uncertain. Duke Sangwoo stepped forward. "You are a fool, Heirin. This decision will destroy us." "Perhaps," the Empress said calmly. "Or perhaps it will save us. But I would rather risk change than guarantee stagnation. I declare this debate ended. Daewon is appointed cultural guardian to Prince Taeyang. The academy will open within the month. Any noble house that wishes to withdraw their loyalty may do so. But know this, I will not turn back." She turned to her court. "We have a choice. We can continue as we have, growing more isolated and brittle until we break. Or we can adapt, learn, grow. Our ancestors were not afraid to change. Why should we be?" For a long moment no one moved. Then Captain Bora stepped forward and knelt. "I support the Empress's decision." One by one, younger dragons followed. Then some older ones. Scholars, artists, engineers, even some military commanders. They knelt in support. The traditionalists stood firm. Duke Sangwoo looked around, seeing his support fracturing. His face twisted with rage. "This is not over," he said coldly. "You will regret this decision, Heirin." "Perhaps," the Empress said again. "But it is still my decision to make." Court dismissed. As dragons filed out, arguing among themselves, Daewon released a breath he didn't know he was holding. Prince Taeyang immediately flew to him, chirping happily. Daewon caught the hatchling and hugged him. Princess Yuna approached, smiling. "You just started a revolution, you know." "I just wanted to help a kid," Daewon said tiredly. "And you changed the empire doing it." She looked at her sister. "This will be difficult." "The traditionalists won't give up easily." "I know," the Empress said. "But we have momentum now, and more importantly, we have purpose." Ambassador Sung Ho came over, barely containing his excitement. "This is incredible. The first human appointed to a dragon royal position. My government will want to send delegations immediately." "Send students instead," Daewon suggested. "Young ones. Let them grow up learning from each other." The ambassador's eyes lit up. "Yes, yes!" Cultural exchange at the foundational level. This could change everything. Over the next days, preparations began. The academy took shape. Architects designed buildings that combined human and dragon styles. Teachers from both species volunteered. The first class of students was selected, carefully chosen for open-mindedness and potential. Captain Bora became head of security for the academy. Jae-hee accepted a position as student coordinator. Elder Myung-soo agreed to teach history from a new perspective. Princess Yuna planned cultural exchange programs. One evening, Daewon stood on a palace balcony with Prince Taeyang. Below, he could see the academy construction site. Ships were arriving with the first human students. Dragon younglings were being brought from across the empire. "Look at that little one," Daewon said. "That's the future." "Your future?" The prince chirped and nuzzled his face. The hatchling was growing fast. Soon he would be too big to perch on Daewon's shoulder. But their bond remained strong. Empress Heirin joined them. She looked out over the construction with satisfaction. "The traditionalists are still angry," she said. "Duke Sangwoo is forming a coalition. This will get worse before it gets better." "Was it worth it?" Daewon asked. She smiled. "Watch my son. Really watch him." Daewon looked at Taeyang. The prince was playing with a paper crane Daewon had taught him to fold. He was being gentle with it, careful not to damage the delicate wings. A few weeks ago, the hatchling would have just destroyed it to show his strength. "He's learning," Heirin said softly. "Not just skills, but values. He's becoming someone who can build instead of just conquer, someone who can lead an empire into a new age." She looked at Daewon. "You did that. In just a few weeks, you taught him more about being a good leader than centuries of traditional education could have." "I just treated him like a person instead of a title." "Exactly." The Empress's smile widened. "Do you know what the most radical thing you did was? Not saving him, not challenging the court. It was assuming a dragon prince and a human cargo worker could be friends. That simple assumption broke down walls we didn't even know we had built. Below, Captain Bora was directing security forces, mixed teams of dragons and humans working together. It still looked strange, but it was happening. "There will be resistance," Heirin said. "Probably for generations. Some will never accept this change. But some will," Daewon replied. "And their children will grow up thinking it's normal." That's how change really happens. Not in one dramatic moment, but in small steps every day until the old way seems ridiculous. The Empress laughed. It was a warm sound full of genuine joy. When this started, I thought I was giving you a position. But really, you gave me something far more valuable. You gave me hope. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and day one? You should probably start preparing lessons. Classes begin next month. You have 50 students of mixed species, all eager to learn from the famous human who changed the empire. After she left, Daewon groaned. 50 students? I'm a cargo worker. What am I supposed to teach them? Jae-hee, who had been standing guard nearby, chuckled. Teach them what you taught the prince. How to fold paper, how to care about others, how to question traditions that don't make sense. The basics. Those aren't basics. Those are the hardest things to learn. Exactly why they need you to teach them. Daewon looked down at Prince Taiyang, who was now trying to teach his paper crane to fly by gently tossing it in the air. The hatchling giggled when it glided for a moment before falling. Okay, Daewon said to himself. I can do this. One student at a time. One lesson at a time. One small change at a time. That night he wrote his first lesson plan. It started with a simple question. What is strength for? In her private chambers, Empress Hayrin looked at reports from across the empire. Mixed reactions. Some houses had pledged full support. Others had withdrawn their ambassadors. But more importantly, young dragons everywhere were talking, questioning, imagining different futures. The change had begun. And like all true changes, it couldn't be stopped. Only guided. Far away on Earth, Daewon's grandmother received a message. Her grandson was alive and well, serving in a dragon royal household. She didn't understand all the details, but she understood the most important part. He was doing what she had taught him, caring for those who needed care, making the world a little better, one kindness at a time. She smiled and went back to feeding the birds in her garden. Some lessons, she thought, never go out of style. The empire stood at the dawn of a new age. An age where strength would be measured not just in weapons and conquest, but in wisdom and compassion. Where different species could learn from each other instead of dominating each other. It wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be quick. But it had started. And it started because one human couldn't walk past a child in pain without helping. Sometimes the bravest thing the strong can do is admit they have something to learn from the weak. And sometimes the smallest act of kindness can shake an empire.